Hey all, Super Terror Remix here. Um, I just want to make this really quick. Part of the reason being is I'm still taking it all in from last night's premiere. Um, right, yeah. Uh, I just want to say right here and now, thank you all so much. Even to those who didn't make it to the premiere, I just really, really want to thank you guys for showing up and just watching it at all. Um, as I mentioned on off previously, I've worked on Godzilla Vs A Stranger since May of last year. The planning of it began February of last year, but the actual production of it began in May of last year. And for those who know me from my DeviantArt days, I historically have a terrible problem with hang on one second, with procrastination. And I'd often get these ideas to do stuff on DeviantArt with, and I'll push and push and push to do them. But then a lot of the time I get to a point where I just don't end up finishing those projects. And that's something I've had for as long as I can remember. With this project, my biggest aim of them all was to overcome that procrastination streak, to actually create something, actually see it through to the very end, polish it up, finish it, and get it online. So, for those who saw the film, once again, thank you for those who attended the premiere and those who are watching it beyond the premiere. For those who have seen it, yeah, the ending is rushed. And the reason it's rushed was because I unfortunately was put on a bit of a time constraint. The reason being is, around the final act, it was like a month or two away before December, and I had to dismantle the set so that Christmas plans could be made and make sure that nothing would get in the way during that time of the year. So I had to the best of my ability, get a satisfying conclusion as well as try and wrap up as quickly as possible. So I had to go through that, and that was a little bit stressful at the time. And then thankfully, around very late November of last year, I actually managed the principal photography of Godzilla Vs A Stranger. And then came the next thing of compiling it all and getting it all edited on Sony Vegas, which I believe, let me think, when did I start actually putting it together? I actually believe I actually started editing the thing as a whole right at the beginning of this year. I can't exactly, yeah, the first quarter of this year. Let's put it that way. So, and I had to make sure that everything was in place. I had to retinker with some of the After Effects clips that I created for the fan film stop motion short, because Sony Vegas couldn't handle the bitrate. I had to double check some of the shots. I had to do a bit of photo editing here and there to make sure everything looked clean and handled as possible. Yeah, there were at least, I'd say, about 6 shots in the entire film that actually had my hand in, so I had to go over those and make sure my hand was erased from those shots, which using paint can be a bit of a pain in the arse sometimes. And these past few weeks I've been pushing to make sure that it was being prepared on Sony Vegas, actually getting all the pieces together, making sure the music was right. Like here's the thing. One thing I really wanted to prioritize in this fan film was the sound design, because you often go on YouTube, and I'm not, I'm not really gonna fault anyone for this, but a lot of especially Godzilla stop motion shorts, a lot of short ones, they only have very few sounds in them, which isn't like I'm making. It's not like I'm being critical or anything like that, but it's just something I've noticed. So with this, I wanted to make sure that I had gotten as many sounds at appropriate times in as much as possible to make it feel more alive, if that makes sense. So there was a bit of stress trying to get that sorted out at times, because my copy of Sony Vegas, I'm not sure if it's because of my laptop or because the Sony Vegas I'm using is from 2012, it loves to crash a lot. So I had to deal with that on a regular basis. and actually sorting out the sounds and pieces of music took way more time than I wanted to, but I wanted to make sure that this was as good as I can possibly get it. Then fast forward to the day before yesterday. I was literally at the very end, at the very final stretch of the film, and I literally was sitting in this very chair around 9 o'clock UK time that night, and I literally just thought to myself, screw it, the end is in sight. I am going to push to get I'm going to push to get this very last bit finished, and that's how that clip from 4 a.m. in the morning surfaced of me recording the thing rendering on Vegas, the completed version of Godzilla Vs A Stranger, and I thankfully was able to get some sleep, about approximately 3 hours sleep afterwards, but I was just so happy that it had finally did its thing. Then we fast forward to yesterday. I set out to upload it, or start the upload process around 1 p.m. UK time. And I was thinking, because this was a very big video file, something YouTube doesn't always like, it's going to take a while to upload. So the idea was to start the upload and then set the premiere for 1:45 in the morning UK time. Why? Because a lot of you, I've noticed a majority of my audience are Americans, and I figured early morning UK time is probably the best time to catch a lot of you. So I figured, based on some of my past premieres, it's a win-win. What I forgot, however, was YouTube cuts off uploads when a PC goes on standby. So lo and behold, a couple of hours later, me forgetting this, I come back on my laptop, and I look at the progress bar and think to myself, 29%, that's not right. And yeah, it turns out it was stuck on 29% the entire time my PC was on standby. And considering the time it was, I was thinking, okay, maybe I might just be able to crank this thing out still. Then came the issue of, at that point, I was feeling really tired. I was having a tough time keeping my head awake because of the lack of sleep from the night before. So I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe I might try and risk it and bring forward the premiere a little bit early so I can still be with you guys watching it and get off to bed relatively early and get my sleep back. YouTube. I tried closing down quite a few tabs I had pinned. I tried turning off my devices. I was doing everything I could to see if I could speed it up because it was taking forever. And the one thing about uploading on YouTube sometimes that I'm not always keen with is that they never give you accurate estimates of how long it takes to either upload or process a video. So I still apologise for the back and forth of the premiere time last night. I was watching the upload estimate and I was thinking to myself, shit. Because the last thing I wanted was for the premiere time to go, but then actually have no video to premiere with, thus creating a vacuum where you guys will probably just end up waiting way longer than you should, and God knows how long it would have taken at that point in time because of how YouTube handles large video sizes. So at that point yesterday, I was anxious, and I was getting more anxious as time went on. One thing I've always had throughout life is I've always had anxiety, and I've always had a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of times, a lot of days where I could be in the middle of doing something, and I suddenly just stop and think to myself, what's the point? Why am I doing this when I feel like I'm not good enough, sort of thing? And just real quick, I had this overwhelming feeling of doubt when I was in college. Because I am autistic, I had the jump from a special needs school to a college environment in which trying to understand the course I was on at the time was a struggle. And because I had to play catch up with everyone else, there were days where I had to really wrestle with my own negative thoughts on that front. So, fast forward to last night, I'm wrestling with the premiere time, and I'm trying not to panic over the inconsistent upload time by YouTube. I was really thinking to myself, come on, come on. This has to work out. You've spent 10 months on this thing. You can make it. And it got to a point where the upload was still taking forever. And I once again pushed the premiere date forward. And yeah, I was really starting to have doubts. Then around that time, I believe this was possibly between 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. UK time, my good old internet colleague, Steven's Toy Reviews, notified me on social media and basically created a plugin for the Godzilla Vs A Stranger premiere. That cheered me up for one simple reason. The fact that this was getting noticed and this was gaining traction. And going back to what I've said earlier in this recording, that is a big deal to me, simply due to the fact that because of the amount of time I spent on this and because the journey I went through to get this thing finished and actually getting just that little extra push. I don't know about you guys if you've ever been through something similar, but for me that goes a really long way. So Steve, if you're watching this right now, then I honestly cannot thank you enough for that, mate. You really came through last night with that premiere notification, and thankfully that was the semi-final premiere time change before the upload finally completed. And I think the processing actually took like 40 minutes. So I actually was able to keep it relatively close to my last premiere time push, which was quarter to 12 at night UK time. The funny thing is, and I was saying this to a couple of people that are already on the premiere chat, that actually wasn't far off from the very original premiere time of quarter to 2 in the morning UK time, and I just couldn't help but chuckle. So, lo and behold, it was about to premiere. I basically tried sending out as many notifications as I could, which I apologise for my Instagram followers if I kept pushing that, because once again, YouTube kept jerking me around with that. But regardless, the premiere started, and the feedback from you guys was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely wonderful to see in real time. I really don't want to come off as egocentric here, but like I said earlier, actually seeing something that I spent nearly a year on, poured my heart and soul into to make sure that everything was as tightly knit as I could get it, to see it get this reaction and this sort of general feedback, that really made my night last night. The push to get it uploaded throughout the whole day and fighting YouTube's stupid uploading system paid off. And I honestly cannot thank you guys enough for making last night a heck of an experience. That premiere was awesome. And again, it's just I'm still trying to take it in all now. If I think I can say in confidence that every one of us can relate to this when I say, when you've accomplished something, or if you've managed to achieve something, and then actually seeing the benefits of that achievement and actually seeing everything you put towards it, all the work, all the effort actually pay off, it's the most wonderful feeling in the world. I really don't have a lot going for me personally in real life right now, so to have this take off as well as it did after all the uploading and all the time crunching nonsense, that was an experience that I will never forget, and it was all thanks to you guys, and I honestly can't thank you all enough for being as patient as you were as I kept changing the premiere time. So yeah, the premiere last night, thanks to you guys, went swell. And the icing on the cake, waking up this morning to all those notifications, I just couldn't help but laugh, because it's just like, here it is, something I've spent time on, something I've poured so much into is getting all this traction, and it just made me so happy, because at that point in time I then knew that I made it, that something I made, something that I created, not only is completed, but also is getting the feedback it's been getting. And it tells me that the 10 months I spent filming, photographing, getting the joints on the figures all correct, tinkering with After Effects, going through Paint to get rid of my hand, getting all the music and sound effects sorted in Vegas, and having to put up with more Vegas crashes than I can count on one hand. It just showed me that in the end that was all worth it, and I couldn't be any happy about that. I am so content right now that I'm not gonna cry, but I imagine that if I kept talking about this the way I am, I possibly could. Yeah, I just can't believe, after all that, how well it's going down. And yeah, here it is, in the flesh, 100% completed, Godzilla Vs A Stranger. And I'm so glad you guys have been enjoying it. I'm glad it's still being enjoyed. So yeah, that's pretty much that. While I'm here, actually, I would like to once again thank Steven's Toy Reviews for getting that last-minute heroic plug-in. That went a long way. Thank you, Steve. I'd also like to thank a close friend of mine, Blood Otaku Z. I was trying to get the film to be as crisp as possible, because I uploaded test clips, which are unlisted. I've uploaded test clips to see how those clips would look on YouTube, and because of the garbage compression process they have in place to crunch video sizes down, the best way I can describe it is that it looked like these test clips look like living JPEG. So very recently I had this close friend of mine over, and he was talking about bitrate, because Blood Otaku Z, he's been doing game streams recently, and he's really been trying to buff up his video quality. He's been looking at all those options. You should honestly check him out, by the way. I will post a link to his channel in the pinned comment below, so you guys can have a good look at his stuff, because he really goes out of his way to make sure that his content just looks sublime. So I was basically talking to him, and we went through Sony Vegas, and he figured that on Sony Vegas there was an option to increase the bitrate, and we went through that. He helped me get that all sorted to get the right amount, and I uploaded a test clip, and it looked basically what you guys saw with the premiere last night, or if you just watched it after the premiere, is basically what we saw when we uploaded this test clip to YouTube. It looks great. There was none of that encoder crap, which again, I went as hard as I could, as I physically could, to make this thing as crisp as possible, because I absolutely cannot stand it when you watch a YouTube video, and no matter how hard you push the quality setting, that you still get little bits of encoder that just flutter about the screen. Blech. No thank you. So yeah, Blood Otaku Z, I cannot thank you enough for putting me in the right direction on that. It went a long way, and yeah, keep up the good work with your stuff as well. Honestly, that I'm glad you're getting some traction with those streams as well. So yeah, again, the link to Blood Otaku Z's channel will be pinned on a comment below. And then there's two more people I want to thank real quick. An individual by the name of Jazz. He's a good family friend, and he's the one who helped my mum get my D3200 Nikon camera many Christmases ago, and that's the camera I used to get the stop motion frames for Godzilla vs. Stranger. And there's this weird thing there's this weird thing in our kitchen where the way the lights are illuminated, I guess, on the photos, depending on the angle where the camera is positioned, they have this strange yellow tint. So I tried asking him for advice on how to fix that, and unfortunately at the time, there wasn't really much that could be done. I still want to thank Jazz regardless for giving me that advice in the first place, considering this is the man who helped Mum get the camera to begin with. So thank you, Jazz. I really appreciate that. And then the last person I want to thank is my mum. Mum has always supported me throughout life from beginning to end, through a lot of my own battles, through school, through college, and she was giving me bits of advice on the set, and that went a long way, simply due to the fact that I had to try and construct the set in a way where, say, I had to take it off the table. Instead of being in one giant solid piece, I managed to construct it in a way where I can take it off in segments and actually put them in storage until I could use the table again. And yeah, if it weren't for Mum, I wouldn't have been able to get problem solving on that front, because if there wasn't that condition in the first place, then I wouldn't have been creative as I have been with the set. So, and then the really big one, Mum's faith in me, actually. You know, even though this is not her thing, she still tried pushing me to get this finished. Get this finished, complete it, get it uploaded, and just see how well it does, as well as just giving me that moral support that I do need sometimes, due to my lack of confidence and my lack of motivation. So yeah, Mum, I honestly can't thank you enough for that. Honestly, if you have a mum like that, then cherish her each and every day. I'm being serious. If you have a mum or even any family member or friend who will help you to the extent that my mum did, cherish them. Just cherish them. That's I don't think I need to elaborate any further on that. And that's enough of. I think I've come to the end of my blabbling here. So yeah, here we are, a day later, and Godzilla Vs. A Stranger is finally up on YouTube. That's 10 months of my life, right then and there, from start to finish. So again, I honestly can't thank you guys enough for yesterday and since then for validating this process and making me see that all this was worth it in the end, and that achievement is mine, basically. So yeah, that's pretty much it on that front. I will catch you guys next time, I guess. For those who are wondering if Godzilla vs. Stranger is no, excuse me. For those wondering if Godzilla vs. Stranger is going to get a sequel, I honestly, I have an idea or two, but I'm not gonna make another one for a while, just because of I've already had a year going into it. I kind of want a year out. Plus, there might be nothing solid, but there might be change in circumstances coming up at some point in the future. So that may also affect production of another stop motion like Godzilla vs. A Stranger. That being said, one thing I did do throughout the production of Godzilla vs. A Stranger is I basically took a lot of my behind the scenes material. So one thing I do plan to do is a making of feature, basically. I have enough material for it, and yeah, I figured if you guys love Godzilla vs. A Stranger as much as you do, I figured the next best thing is going to be, outside of a sequel, is to show you guys kind of what went into making it, basically. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Still trying to get my head around just what happened yesterday and how, and it all just went so much better than I expected. And that on its own, for me, is an absolute win. And once again, thank you, Steven's Toy Reviews. Thank you, Blood Otaku Z. Thank you, Jazz. And thank you, Mum, for all your help and support throughout this entire process. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. And I will catch you guys relatively soon. I'm probably going to have at least one more upload before the month ends, and it's going to be a mashup upload as the schedule dictates. And yeah, thank you guys again. Last night was awesome, and I will be seeing you soon. This is Super Toy Remix signing out, and you guys stay gold. Catch you later. Bye bye.